Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm the Chair of Finance for the City Council, and I'm calling to order our public meeting on Tuesday, May 6, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. I am going to waive the readings of the agenda items 1 through 4. We're here to hear everyone's comments on the budget as has been proposed by the mayor. I think that's all why you all are here. I'd like to recognize my committee members that are here this evening. We've got Councilor Sanchez, Councilor Anderbaugh, Councilor Graves, Councilor, I think that's it for the committee. Oh, I'm sorry, and Councilor Taylor, who's sitting right next to me. So sorry, I'm so sorry. Okay. Then I also have Councilor Espinal who's joined us, Councilor Ryan, Councilor Gonsalves, thank you very much, they're here. Tonight, I think for the first time that I can remember, we have an interpreter, a Spanish interpreter. And so he is going to speak for a minute. Thank you. Very grateful. And so he is going to announce, so if anyone does not speak English but speaks Spanish, they can come up and testify. I'm going to allow extra time for them to sign the sign-in sheets. And if I can ask the interpreter to repeat what I just said. Thank you.
Para aquellas personas que hablan español, si hay alguien que necesita interpretación y que le gustaría hablar en español, yo soy un intérprete. Para ustedes poder hablar en español, yo voy a interpretar lo que dijeron en inglés a los miembros del consejo. Le van a dar más tiempo para que ustedes puedan firmar, para que tengan tiempo para poder expresar sus preocupaciones y preguntas.
Thank you. I hope everyone was able to hear that. And then if you hold that very close to your mouth, we have terrible acoustics in here. We're trying to improve it with a carpet, but I'm not sure how much better we've made it. But if you could please speak loudly. Okay. So as everyone knows, we'd really like you to sign up. We're going to give everyone a couple more minutes, but I am going to start the meeting. If you could please keep your comments. We have a lot of people who would like to be heard tonight. So if you could keep your comments to 2 minutes, I'll be giving you the little wave and the reminder. But we really do want to move things along so we can make sure we hear from every single person here this evening. So I'd like to thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to hearing your testimony. So if I could have the first sheet of the first couple of sign-in sheets, thank you. Did I mention Ken? I'm sorry, I also forgot. Obviously, I'm forgetting either side, but we also have Ken Cheverini here from the City Solicitor's Office. Okay, the first one on the list is Jason Ascensor, 102 Linwood. Thank you, if you would please, and if everyone can remember to make sure the mic is on and speak directly into the mic so everyone can hear you. Thank you. And if everyone can state
Hello.
your name and address.
Yes, hello, my name is Jair Ascensor, you can call me Jair, 102 Linwood Avenue. I'm a local farmer. My main thing is making sure that we take care of our community gardens and focus on good nutrition for our community as well as our schools. Something I'm talking with Ms. Sue and about is making sure we have healthy food options in our schools. So I just want to point that out as a side thing. In regards to the budget, the main question I would have is what would make sense as to lowering taxes for commercial properties while raising them for regular people. I just don't understand that and want to point to that. I also see And you know, I'm a lay person, but it says there's only 7,000 put aside for housing, and I know we're in a housing crisis. So while I don't know how to read the budget perfectly, I would just ask, why is it such a small number? In general, I just know that we are having difficulties with raising money, but you know, there are more than just, you know, direct taxation ways to get that money, and I just want an open conversation that allows the average person to have a degree of security in the budget. That's basically everything I have to say.
Thank you. We appreciate your testimony. And also, I'd like to mention that we also have a number of exhibits, people that have actually sent in written testimony, and we have some copies available. And I just want to make sure everyone knows that those will be considered also. So the next one on the list is Cheryl Space.
So good afternoon, honorable members of the Finance Committee. I'm Cheryl Space, and I'm here today as the Library Director of the Community Libraries of Providence. And I thank you for your time in hearing my testimony. So I'm here to express my gratitude and to communicate the importance of level funding for the library in currently in Mayor Smiley's proposed FY26 budget. Maintaining the $255,000 increase we received last year is crucial to funding our operations. And just as important, municipalities must at least level fund their libraries to receive the full state grant and aid, which is almost $1 million for us. Our libraries operate on an extremely tight budget, and we stretch every dollar we receive, and I'm proud to say that we are trusted and responsible stewards of the public's investment. I know this is a challenging financial time for the city, and the library board and staff are grateful that the city values the libraries, understands and appreciates their impact on quality of life in our diverse neighborhoods, and has demonstrated their support in a tangible way by maintaining our funding. As you know, the city's funding is 65% of our operating budget. It's our primary funding source. We receive 26 payments, which help us make payroll bi-weekly. The city funding pays for essential services like the staff who provide programs, maintain collections, and keep the libraries open in 9 neighborhood locations. And personnel costs are 71% of our budget. This funding also pays for essential repairs, maintenance, and upgrades to the library buildings, 8 of which we lease from the city, but we maintain them on our own. Level funding would allow us to retain the staffing levels to keep Mount Pleasant, Rochambeau, and Knight Memorial libraries open the additional hours the ARPA funding allowed, which includes 4 evenings a week and all day on Saturday. It allows us to retain the new positions we were able to add, specifically the Makerspace program staff. And third, it allows us to maintain the staffing levels to keep our doors open for the nearly 500,000 people who visit our libraries each year, providing more than 100 free high-quality programs per week, including free after-school meals at 8 of our libraries. As we head into the summer, our libraries will be buzzing nonstop, filled with youth participating in over 400 summer learning programs, in addition to serving nearly 500 people each week through our mobile library, which will operate in the parks. So our public libraries are welcoming and inclusive free spaces where neighbors can shield from inclement weather, access clean restrooms and cold drinking water, charge their devices, print, notarize, and gain support accessing benefits and jobs. There are so few places and communities that provide no barrier to entry, and those spaces are more important than ever, especially in these challenging times for everyone. So I ask for your support in maintaining the level funding for the Community Libraries of Providence. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next is Joshua Franco.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you to the committee and also the other counselors that serves Providence. I just wanted to say, looking over the purview.
Don't forget to say your name and address for the record.
Oh, sorry. Joshua Franco, 88 Pembroke. I think the problem that we need to address is the fact that if we're going to do all these projects, I think the RFP processing has to be effective. What I mean by effective is actually having companies, if you're going to have private companies come in as play as a stakeholder, actually give jobs to Providence residents. from the Black and Brown community, or particularly the Public Housing Committee. The reason why I say that is because when you're walking around Providence, you see all these projects, but then you don't know who works within these projects. That's a lot of money that's leaving Providence. That could be a solution to where you can create more taxes, but also create more quality of life standards so we can actually improve everyone's quality of life standards too, within their families, within their incomes. Though not to get off track, one of the biggest concerns I do see is homelessness. I think that a lot of people are afraid to talk about it, but let's start the conversation. When you're going next to Classical, Central, and PCTA, you see homeless shelters. But yet again, my biggest question to the council chambers right now, how many of those people that are being serviced are sex offenders, to be very frank with you? I'm just thinking about the safety of our kids, but also thinking about the safety of our community. Because at the same time, you're gonna have opioid crisis, you're gonna have sex offenders, and you're gonna have a lot of these, if you wanna say problems, being faced within our kids. This is coming from someone that actually went to 4 different high schools within the Providence district. I've seen these problems walk into the schools. Though again, like I said, it goes into the quality of life standards. If we don't focus on the little things that do matter the most outside the schools, also inside like the education proponents, we as a city is gonna fail. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Next, we have Greg Garrett.
Good evening, members of the committee. My name is Greg Garrett. I live on 37 6th Street. I'll start with one thing first. There should never be tax breaks for high-end real estate. No market rate or high-end real estate should ever get a tax break. Even the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund say that's a really bad use of money. It's about as bad a use of money as building stadiums for baseball teams and soccer teams. It always costs communities money. So we should never be doing any of that. The second thing I'm going to say is that the most important crisis that we face is the climate crisis. And if we do not get right on climate, we are not going to have a community, we are not going to have an economy. And in order to do that, you need to focus on two things. You need to focus on climate, and you need to focus on justice. And so the budget of the city should keep the sustainability department as big as strong as possible, keep all of the investments in climate as strong as possible, and just, you know, that is the key things that we have to do, is focus on the climate, and then also, you know, food security and all the things that come beyond that. And, you know, our economic development money too often goes to the medical industrial complex, goes to, you know, high-end stuff. It should only go to projects that are run in low-income communities by the people of that community. If you're sending money to people from outside of those neighborhoods, then you're contributing to gentrification and displacement. So let's have a city budget that works on climate, on justice, and on economic development that works for low-income communities rather than anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Next, I have Peggy Farrell.
Good evening.
You can, yeah.
Thank you, committee members, for the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Don't forget to say your name and
My
address.
name, I was getting there. My name is Peggy Farrell, and I'm here on behalf of Providence After School Alliance, PASA. Normally, our executive director, Ann Durham, would be speaking tonight to you, but she's on a well-deserved vacation. I have been on the board of PASA since June of 2013 and am now the secretary and on the finance committee. So thank you very much. In my private life, I'm a lawyer at a local law firm. So I want to first say how grateful we are that the proposed budget level funds PASA for this fiscal year. I recognize that you have an incredibly difficult and challenging job. I'm sure you can appreciate that a lot of organizations also have a very challenging and difficult environment, particularly in the education and equity arena. I think this work has become even more important post-COVID as we're dealing with the challenges of learning deficits and emotional well-being that are the legacies of the post-COVID era. So I want to thank you very much for that, for your continued support in that budget. I joined PASA because I think that its work is critical to the youth of this city and therefore to the city itself. PASA is its purpose, its mission is to provide after-school programs that are engaging for youth development, and they are focused very much on those of underprivileged and vulnerable communities. Without this funding from the city, PASA just simply can't continue to do the critical work that it currently does. I think some statistics would be helpful. In the last 2 fiscal years, PASA served between 1,300 and 1,200 students in the city schools. We would do more if we had the funds to do more. Although its programs are open to all students in the schools that host us, they are the vast majority are schools are students of low-income and vulnerable populations. PASA provides them with opportunities and experiences that I had as a child, because I had Girl Scouts and other things. Those opportunities gave me the confidence to grow into a successful adult. Furthermore, I think it's important to recognize that PASA contributes to the academic achievement. One of the requirements to participate in PASA programs is to be in school. And we know there is a direct correlation between school attendance and academic success. So once again, I want to thank you for the support in the budget and for the revenue sources that support that level of funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next is Grant Delgarian. I understand, Mr. Delgarian, you have to make your choice, and I will call on you if you're here at the end of the list. Okay. Jackie Goldman.
Jackie Goldman, 142 Enfield Avenue in Providence. So over the past 4 or 5 years, I've probably knocked somewhere between 13 and 15,000 doors in Providence. And one of the things that I've been hearing from people overwhelmingly is that they cannot afford to live in this city. There are people who've outright owned their homes who are having to think about selling them because their property taxes have increased year over year. People who are scared about this reality, and this has been not just this year, but 4 years. We live in this city with the single biggest gap between median income and how expensive housing is, and yet this council is considering, or at least the mayor and the council are considering raising taxes even more. This is not something that we can do, and there are other ways that we can make this funding happen. So first of all, accurate assessments of all buildings in Providence. I don't understand why it is that many of the major developers saw their assessments go down while everyone else saw their assessments go up. Something is fishy there. Clearly that is the city's priorities and raising money off of everyday people instead of these large developers. I think that we can consider also having different tax rates for different kinds of residential property. Why is it that someone who lives in like a pretty modest, either single family or duplex is taxed for property at the same rate as like a large multi-million-dollar house somewhere else in the city? I work every day in overdose prevention, and the people that I work with who are people who are unhoused people that have not had housing for years, and this is getting worse. And I beg the city council to not make housing more expensive when we desperately, desperately need low-income affordable options that everyday people in this city can actually afford.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And before we proceed, I'd like to recognize that we have Council President Miller with us. I'm so sorry, Council President. Okay, next we're going to take, I did say Councilwoman Ryan, although you were out of the room. But anyway, Councilwoman Ryan is here also. We have Ronald Koya.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Ronald Koya, 410 South Main Street, Providence, Rhode Island. I am the business manager and secretary treasurer of Local Union 1033, where I am proud to represent more than 800 members who work for the city of Providence. As you know, our members perform a wide array of public services for our citizens, such as plowing the streets, fixing potholes, providing clean potable water, maintaining our parks, issuing our licenses, and a whole other wide array of functions that make our city work. I rise tonight in favor of the budget presented for your consideration. The budget as submitted will ensure that the vital services that our members perform so well day in and day out will continue to be delivered in the next fiscal year. As you know, those services serve as the basis for the quality of life that our residents have come to expect and certainly deserve. And the budget submitted will ensure that they will continue to be provided with pride, dedication, and professionalism. We respectfully urge you to adopt the budget presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Koya. Okay, next we have Nora.
Good evening, Chairwoman Anthony and members of the council and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Nora Barre, and I am the Executive Director of the Downtown Providence Park Network, and the address is 30 Exchange Terrace, Providence. I wanted to just voice our enthusiastic support on behalf of our organization to the City of Providence's proposed 2026 fiscal budget. We're so grateful for the city's ongoing commitment to vibrant, inclusive programming and free in our downtown parks. Thanks to your support, we've been able to host events that are completely accessible and free for the public, and we've seen economic development due to that. There's just all the events that we've provided have brought a lot of people downtown, and these people have spent money at various restaurants before and after events, and I think that those types of events keep the city ticking and going. Whether it's been live music in Burnside Park or Lumina or family-friendly celebrations, these parks are dynamic community hubs. They're our town square where everybody meets and everyone is welcome and feels welcome. So we have your investment in us has quadrupled due to our grant writing and fundraising that allows us to even do more. We're very nimble, and we have a very small team that does a lot of big things because we want to steward your investment in us. It makes a huge difference. It creates joy, it strengthens community ties, and it fosters civic pride in our public spaces. They're the heart of our city, and with your continued support, we will ensure that they remain inclusive and inspiring and thriving. And look for our next big project that's coming in June. It's going to be a wayfinding system for pedestrians to push pedestrians around the public spaces with an overarching theme of you belong here. And we want this whole entire system to reflect the city of Providence, historic moments, and the faces of Providence in the big moments that everyone can see themselves in. So thank you very much for having me and for being a champion of public spaces.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Now I have Bob. Bob did not put his last name down. So Bob, okay, we know your last name, but you're going to state it for the record.
Sure, I will. Chairwoman Anthony and members of the Finance Committee, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Bob Russell, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Downtown Improvement District, the Yellow Jackets. I want to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the City Council for your continued partnership, especially for the grant funding that has strengthened our ability to keep downtown Providence clean, safe, and welcoming. One example I'd like to highlight is the Sunday Litter Pickup Grant, which has filled a critical gap in our services. Weekends are among the busiest time in the downtown Providence, drawing residents and visitors to events, restaurants, and nightlife. By funding Sunday cleanup efforts, the council has helped ensure the downtown remains clean, safe, even during the highest traffic periods. This initiative has had a direct and viable impact on the appearance and perception of our city core, and it's exactly the kind of support that makes the real difference in the city of Providence. The grants we've received over the years have allowed us to expand our clean team operations, tackle litter and graffiti, and more efficiently and uphold a standard that reflects pride in our shared public spaces. This investment strengthens the health, economy, and overall experience in downtown Providence. As you consider the fiscal 2026 budget, I respectfully urge you to continue supporting grant initiatives that fund clean streets. Your investment enables us to meet growing needs and to uphold the high expectations of our residents, businesses, visitors, and visitors rightly have for downtown. Thank you again for your past and ongoing commitment. We look forward to continuing our strong partnership in keeping Providence clean, safe, and thriving.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Next, we have Allison Izzy.
Good evening, Chairwoman Anthony and members of the Finance Committee and City Council. My name is Allison Izzy. I serve as the Finance Manager of the Providence Downtown Improvement District, 30 Exchange Terrace. I'm here today to express our sincere appreciation for the City Council's support of our mission, particularly through grant funding that directly supports clean streets and public space maintenance in our downtown core. Your investments in the past have helped us deliver services that are both visible and valuable. From a financial perspective, these grants stretch every dollar. They allow us to deploy resources efficiently, target service where it's needed most, and complement our ongoing operations. The result is a downtown that reflects the city's pride and ambition, and one that attracts businesses, supports tourism, and improves quality of life for residents. As you consider the fiscal year 26 budget, we respectfully ask that you continue funding these clean street initiatives. Your support is a smart investment in the city's infrastructure, image, and economy. It enhances the effectiveness of our public-private partnership and helps ensure downtown Providence remains a place where people want to live, work, and visit. Thank you again for your trust, your vision, and your continued support of this important work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Izzy. Okay, next we have James Wolfgang. I'm sorry, and before we begin, I want to recognize we have Pro Tem Pichardo with us. Thank you so much for coming.
My name is James Wolfgang. I live at 9 Canachet Street in Providence. It was sometime in late February, early March. Council Ryan had a community meeting. Mayor Smiley was invited to come and address his budgetary proposal. I listened to him tell us that he was going to raise taxes, and then I stood up and I told him I was 72 I was on Social Security, and I could not afford a tax increase, nor could many other people in my situation. And I proposed to him at that meeting that any homeowner 70 years or older should be held exempt from any tax increase. Mayor Smiley expressed interest in my proposal, and even though I didn't think it was going to go anywhere, it actually did. Councilor Ryan, through hard work, as she usually does, and Mayor Smiley, increased the elderly exemption 25%, or at least I was told that that's what it's going to be. Based on that, my taxes on my home are going to be reduced by about $150. Therefore, I'm here to support the budget that Mayor Smiley submitted to you. I quickly glanced through what was handed out, and I have a few observations very quickly. First of all,
If you wouldn't mind making them very quickly, we're over the 2 minutes. So if you can summarize them, that would be wonderful.
I'll summarize one proposal. I think it's extremely important that this council become involved with the mayor in addressing public property, nonprofits owned, churches owned, whoever's owned, that don't get taxed. There has to be some movement more than what's happened. That's the only solution in my mind, because there's no cuts going on here. So you have to get on the ball, City Council, and work with the mayor to address non-taxable property. Thank you.
Thank you so much for testifying this evening. Appreciate you coming. We have Anthony Santuri.
Good evening, everyone. Anthony Santuri. I'm a business owner at 180 Pine Street in Providence. Madam Chair, members, Council President Miller, thank you again for all of your time and effort. I have probably spoken to almost everyone on this council over my 20-some-odd years in the life at night, as we want to call it now, economy. And today I just want to express that I am here to support the budget. Budgets are hard, we know that. They're difficult documents, and like in business, you constantly have to look deeply into these and make sometimes decisions that are not always favorable to everyone. But it takes effort, time, and energy, and I thank you all for that. I'd like to talk a little about how we fund budgets by maybe focusing on some of the other areas. So Life at Night, a recent study that had come out about life at night, very comprehensive for us, pointed to some of the economic value that is brought to this capital city, this world-class city, this destination city that we want and have. I would applaud all the support we could have for some of the parts of our life at night, meaning that a nighttime manager would be a good, well-thought-out position to have, a life at night task force to ensure best practices, keeping up with the grants that will help with the noise mitigation, because we have to work together not only to create the income and the jobs, but we have our quality of life, as we all know. So we have to make a way to do this. So these grants are important. The support that we get from this budget and from all of you to help encourage this is a great way to go. Lighting has always been a challenge in our city. Keeping it bright and well lit is part of the public safety dome that has to go over each and every city. I can go on and on about this. Rideshare and Lyft, we need to have designated areas. We need to find a way to make the people who live in Smithfield and Cranston and outside of our city feel they want to come to this city because they don't understand the city as we do. We're here every day. We know the ins and outs of it. I think my 2 minutes are up. I could go on and on forever. I don't want to wait for this, so I'll do it myself. Thank you again, everyone. Have a nice night.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have Erlen Rogel.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee. My name is Erlen Rogel. I was born and raised in Providence. I'm a proud graduate of the Providence Public Schools, a former president of the Providence School Board, and a current commissioner of the Providence Board of Licenses. But also, I previously worked as chief of staff to this very body, so I've worn many hats in my experience. I say that to say that I understand how difficult this budgeting process can be. Putting together a city budget requires tough choices and real leadership, so I want to commend both the mayor's office and the city council for stewarding that process very responsibly. I'm here to support this budget because it reflects clear priorities and it takes meaningful steps to correct structural issues that have been building for years. One bold measure is the $11 million increase in city funding to the Providence Public School District. This is a historic investment, but it's also a direct response to historic underfunding. I know from experience how long the system has operated without the resources it truly needs, and this budget that's before you helps address that. I also want to acknowledge what this budget protects. Obviously, it's tough times for the city, and there are cuts that have to be made, but some of the cuts that aren't made I think are worth noting, such as no cuts to summer jobs, recreation, or public safety. These are core services that touch every corner of our city, every neighborhood, so I'm glad to see that they remain fully funded and intact in this proposed budget. I also want to call out the increased exemptions for seniors and veterans, the lowering of commercial tax rates, and a thorough review of city fines and fees. This all shows a commitment to fairness and long-term sustainability, so I want to shout that out. This budget before you doesn't rely on shortcuts. It reflects thoughtfulness and true diligence. Is it perfect? It's not, but no budget is ideal. We don't work in ideals or perfect situations. We deal with reality. So as the city moves in the right direction with an eye toward equity, sustainability, and service, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to testify and holding this public hearing, and thank you all for your service to the city.
Thank you so much, and for your service to the city also. We have David Salvatore.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, Madam President, City Council members, former colleagues. I never thought this would be my first time back in the chambers, but it's before you testifying on the mayor's budget. I understand the position that you're in. For 12 years, we dealt with challenging budgets, but we all came together to work with a mayor collaboratively to find solutions that work not only for residents throughout the city, but for our small business community as well. This budget strikes a balance between fiscal responsibility and delivering high-quality city services. And at the Providence Foundation, where I'm an executive director that advocates for downtown Providence, city services are critical to the economic vitality, but also to the residents who take advantage of what is being offered in downtown Providence. I won't belabor the points that my partners at the DID and the DPPN made earlier, but when I look around downtown, I'm starting to see more and more empty buildings, vacant commercial space, 111 Westminster Street, i.e. the Superman building, a newly foreclosed building, the Hospital Trust building. The building next door to you, the former Providence Journal building, has laid vacant for decades. And so when we talk about taxes in our residential neighborhoods, and I'm a lifelong resident of this city, none of us like to pay more in property taxes. But when I see these empty buildings and what the potential opportunities are, I can only think that property values in downtown Providence will go up, and the burden on residential homeowners and tenants throughout Providence will be mitigated. For too long, we've treated downtown Providence as its own separate entity. Folks, it's part of the city of Providence. It needs to be inclusive, it needs to be thriving, and the Providence Foundation will continue to provide that advocacy so that your constituents are not burdened with higher property taxes. Again, this budget does strike a balance between delivering those high-quality city services that all of you have promised your constituents and being fiscally responsible. You cannot kick this proverbial can down the road. If you don't address it in this budget, future councils, prospective residents of our city will have to address this, and the burden will be even higher. I urge you to support this budget as drafted, and also keep in mind that the Providence Foundation is always open to your advocacy and to be partners with our organization. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Zoe Nadik. I'm so sorry.
Hi, thank you so much. Zoe Nadig. I live at 64 Chapin. I also work in Providence, Rhode Island, up on the hill. As others before me have said, Providence is the hardest city to rent in the entire country. Mayor Smiley's budget would further burden renters by targeting 2 to 5 unit homes, which make up the majority of homes in my neighborhood, with an extraordinarily high tax rate. Even before this budget was announced, rent in my apartment was scheduled to increase $300 a month due to rising property values and taxes. My wages, for what it's worth, will be increasing only $44 a month, and many people's wages will not increase at all and have not for years. I would also like us to consider the ramifications of this budget in the context of the Trump administration. Because of the actions of the federal administration, we are on the brink of a crisis. The cost of most goods are expected to rise rapidly within the next several weeks due to tariffs. Even before the tariffs were announced, food costs were expected to rise 3.5% this year, and nearly 2 out of 5 families in our state, 38% of Rhode Island households, were already food insecure, due in large part to the rapid increase in the cost of rent. Now essential federal programs are being cut. People are losing their jobs. Life is just going to get harder for working people, and rather than creating a budget that accounts for this, our mayor has proposed a budget not dissimilar to the one President Trump and his administration recently announced, placing a higher tax burden on working people and cutting essential services while increasing spending on police. Why is there more money set aside for police uniforms than our entire library system? Why are we planning to net a loss of $260,000 each year on sound cameras? Why are we not cutting police overtime? If this tax increase goes through, many of us will be completely priced out of this city. With very few affordable places to rent in this area, this also means homelessness in our state will continue to rise. Over 50 people died outside this winter. Knowing how untenable the situation already is for those of us who rent in this city, it is shocking to me that we are not discussing more humane ways to balance our city's budget. This budget is disrespectful to the majority of us living and working in this city, and it must not pass.
Thank you. Next, we have Sharon Steele.
It's a little tall. May I first congratulate you even before I introduce myself. This is the first time we have all been able to hear in this chamber. So thank you, whatever you have done. Sharon Steele, 95 Chestnut Street in Providence, president of the Jewelry District Association. I'm here to speak in favor of 2 of the budgets, though I'm sure every one of us cannot agree with everything in this budget. There are 2 in particular, and they are fire and police. There is a decrease in the fire department budget thanks to the fact that lots of overtime has been cut because the staffing has been brought into place. It's important to say thank you to Chief Derek Silver, and I want to mention one other important program with EMS Chief Zach Kenyon. They've announced the return of the fire department's emergency medical services bicycle program for downtown Providence. It's a proactive initiative that supports public safety efforts overdose prevention, and connection to recovery services for those experiencing substance use challenges. The program began as a pilot in the summer of 2023, and due to the growing community needs and early success, the hours have been extended to 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., now through the end of October, and it is staffed by trained firefighters. The unit provides on-the-ground emergency prevention, overdose response, and public education. The unit is deployed in areas with high overdose and behavioral health-related calls. On to the police. This year, they have graduated 2 police academies and are recruiting for a 3rd. In any given year, the department literally loses at least 10 to 15 people due to retirements. So that if we are to keep the staffing the way it is to be able to increase community policing, then it is important for us to continue with these academies, and we thank you for approving these.
You are over your 2, so if you could wrap it up.
I'm going to go very fast.
Okay.
Major wins for the police: attacking the ATV problem we have in the city due to the creation of a community response team headed by then Lieutenant Matt Jeanette, now a captain. Dealing with the very large events, getting even larger, like PVD Fest and Pride, that bring anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 people to the city. Dealing with the homeless crisis that we are undergoing, with obviously help from Crossroads and other community service organizations. Last but not least, there's nothing more important than quality of life in our neighborhoods. And thanks to fire and police, and thanks to the amazing people on the force, from the chief down to the lieutenants and the captains, we just want to say thank you and encourage you to pass that aspect of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we have Andrew Poyon.
Hi, I'm Andrew Poyant. I live on 11 Trinidad Street. We are called the creative capital. However, right now we are the unaffordable capital. We had a recent study that came out that showed Providence is the least affordable of 44 cities in the United States. We need rent stabilization. We've needed rent stabilization. I've talked to countless people throughout the city, and everyone is struggling to pay rent and to pay all their bills, including their taxes. I've talked to many people that said that they're gonna leave if taxes increase again, and that the last time taxes increased, it was really hard on them. We need rent stabilization. We have a 2-tiered system for the larger residential buildings, but we do not have a tiered system for the mega landlords throughout the city that are buying up our neighborhoods. We should have a tiered system, so if a landlord owns 10, 20, 30 multifamilies, they should be taxed at a higher rate than those that own 1 or 2. Put that on them and not on everyone else. This is a huge burden for people that can barely get by while they're paying less in taxes, getting assessed less than the rest of us, and that needs to change. We need to end tax breaks for luxury development, and we also need to be working harder to make sure that the 39% of Providence that isn't taxed, that's nonprofit, is taxed. It brings in more tax revenue for the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Carol Lisi.
Thank you, Chairwoman and members of the Finance Committee. I stand in opposition to the mayor's budget proposal as it's written. I own and occupy a small two-family home in the city, and I have owned it since the 90s. I live in one unit, and my mother lives in the other unit. I know I am not the only intergenerational small multifamily home in this city, and we are going to be very negatively impacted by the mayor's budget proposal, and that's why, for the first time, although I'm a lifelong Providence resident, I decided to come here and speak today. Should owners like me be forced to make a decision whether to displace our family members that have lived there, in many cases, most of their lives, to cover these increased costs, or to sell our homes and move? We should not be lumped in with these large corporate realty companies and LLCs and investment companies that are selling multiple properties or renting multiple properties. The mayor says this is a balanced budget, but there are many elements to the budget that I support. However, I cannot say that this is balanced. This is really having an undue burden on our lower income areas of the city and those areas that are more heavily populated and more dense, rather than balancing it across all as it should. City expenses are increasing everywhere, and my question to the council is, while I know you've done a great deal of work on this, can nothing be done to offset some of these expenses rather than placing them on the backs of individuals like myself who already bear so much of a heavy tax burden within this city and within the state? I know expenses are going up everywhere, and this is going to place even more of a burden on us, as others have said. It's not a modest increase either. In public speakings, the mayor has said it's a 4% increase for single-family homes, and that may be true. However, it's not for me. Lowering my tax rate by 21%, going from 10.46 to 8.25 per thousand, but increasing my property values by 45% is not a decrease. It's an increase of 14% overall. And that is an increase whether it's owner-occupied, like myself, not owner-occupied, or owned by a large LLC, like Strive, or some of these other companies that are out there. It's just not fair, and it drives gentrification. Owners like myself, many of these homes are very old, over 100 years old, are being lumped in with these large players with deep pockets and new construction. And it's just going to change the face of our neighborhoods, one of the things that I've loved my whole life about the city of Providence. There's also no language in this bill or this proposal that really clearly states an end date to this. How is this not to be like what happened with the state, where there was an increase in sales tax that was supposed to be temporary, but it stayed that way? I would really like, as we look at this, to get more clear language around when this is going to end. I support our city services and closing the deficit. I most definitely do, but I do not think that we need to place this just on residential property. I think we need to spread the wealth and reconsider this approach in a more creative way as the creative capital.
Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate that. Next, we have Roger Gerard, Exeter Street. Roger? No? Okay. Dylan Conley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. It's an honor to be here. I'm actually here tonight to talk a little bit about the nighttime economy. I want to specifically support that portion of the budget. As chair of the Board of Licenses, I get to see from a bureaucratic standpoint what the nighttime economy is like. Not often enough do I actually get to see what it's like myself. I used to, but got a couple kids now and spend a little bit more time at home. And one of the things that we struggled with for a long time was there's a police enforcement component to how the Board of Licenses works, but there's also just checking in with people, what's working well at events, what isn't working well at events. But most people are off the job at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So when everything is kind of booming, we don't really have personnel assets in place to understand what's happening in the city. I think the nighttime economy is very, very critical. I think, our food scene is a lot of what makes Providence, Providence. I think one of the things that we need to focus on, though, we're hearing a lot tonight about empty buildings, and we're hearing a lot tonight about the challenges and the changes culturally and what buildings are being used for. If you think about hybrid work, there are fewer people coming into the city between 9 and 5. So how do you recover from that? the best way to probably do it is to increase the number of people in the city from the next 9 to 5, right? So if they're not coming into the city for work in quite the same way they used to, they got to come to the city for some reason. They got to spend their money here. We have to have thriving businesses here. So how do you do that? You grow the nighttime economy. You need to counterbalance the fact that we're losing density of people and discretionary income during the day. So I think that's absolutely critical. I think that's what I want to say about the nighttime economy. I think I've heard some other comments about some real estate matters that I care about quite a bit. I think the pathway from rent stabilization to bankruptcy, given the city's finances, is a straight line. You need to have a very serious understanding of what you're going to do to assessed value of rentable real estate if you change the revenue it can generate. I think that's absolutely critical. The other thing I will say is there's a lot of discussion about being creative and wanting to keep neighborhoods the same and wanting to get taxes lower. There's exactly one way that you can decrease taxes for any given existing property. It's to grow the taxable real estate. So finding a way to allow for growth is how you actually decrease the tax burden on property owners. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, we have
Alicia Lair.
Good evening, Chair Anthony, members of the Finance Committee, and members of the City Council. My name is Alicia Lehrer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Woonasquatucket River Watershed Council. First, I want to thank you, all of you, for supporting funding for the Watershed Council to maintain and expand and grow the Woonasquatucket River Greenway for the first time ever last year in last year's budget. Some of the things we accomplished with that: 50,000 Providence residents residents live within a 10-minute walk of the Greenway. We have created 28,000 square feet of new green space just in the last year. We've maintained 7 miles of multi-use trail, collected 30 dump trucks worth of litter from the Greenway and public spaces. 315 pounds of trash were removed directly from the river. We planted 2,000 new trees and pollinator plants, and mitigated 750,000 gallons of stormwater. So thank you for that. The good news is, due to our success in a lawsuit against the federal government, we were able to free up funding that had been frozen. I hope it'll stay and remain. That's going to help us build an urban forest within Providence. I urge the council to support the first time ever that we have been included in the mayor's budget, and I thank the mayor for that. And I have written testimony, so I'll just hand it in for the rest so I can save your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Okay. Next I have Stevie Santal. Oh, I'm sorry, Santos. I didn't see the S. Thank you for correcting me.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I come here in support of this budget.
Can you just state your name and address for the record?
My name is Stevie Santos. I live at 37 Arthur Ave in East Providence. I only sleep in East Providence, though. Everything else I do is in Providence. I work in Providence. I do my community stuff in Providence. So I work very closely with the rec centers, the police, the fire, some of the council folks here. And I want to commend you guys on, first of all, this is a lot. You know, just getting through all of this is a lot. So I commend the folks who even read all of this. I didn't read it all. But I am happy that police, fire, and rec centers are being taken care of in this budget, because I work with them, and my biggest concern is always youth and elderly. So I want to make sure that they're always taken care of. I'm a mentor, so I know that there's a lot of issues going on with our youth, especially our teenagers. So I would just ask that when we look at these budgets, we keep all of that in mind. And I do feel for our homeowners who are being taxed. So if we can just look at it holistically and do the best we can, there's no way everyone's going to agree with all this. It's mathematically impossible. But I just applaud the work that you guys do, and I think you're doing a good job, as well as the police and fire and the folks who keep the city clean. So I give you guys a B+ on what you're doing so far. Okay? And that's all I
Okay.
got, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Kate Shapira.
Thank you to the Finance Committee and the Council for carrying out this essential part of the budget process. The budget affects all of us, and we all have a right to shape it. At the hearing for the enabling legislation to increase the tax levy, landlord after landlord said, yes, if property taxes are raised, I will raise the rents. So if the council funds its plans for the city, including increased housing, by also increasing the number of evictions, the amount of suffering in the city stays the same or worsens. I think we can do better than that. I want to see us do better. Let's make some better pilot programs in lieu of taxes for the rich nonprofits in town. Let's move some money out of the police supply budget, which is larger than the entire community library budget, the whole community library budget. Let's tax parking lots. Let's tax endowments. Let's back the wealth tax in the State House. I want green infrastructure. I want PASA paid for. I want parks. I want libraries. And I want people to be able to afford to live here and to use and do these things. So let's make Providence a more livable place for everyone than it has been since its founding. Let's make sure that as times get tougher, climatically and politically, everyone in our city can sleep under a roof every night. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Carla Dowdy? I hope did I get it right? Whoa, great.
Good evening, I'm Carla Dowdy, representing Zero Waste Providence at 498 Pine Street. I am a lifelong Providence resident. Actually, that's a lie, I've moved away for 10 years, but I'm born and raised in Providence. I'm a graduate of Providence Public Schools, and I'm currently priced out of the city of Providence. I reside in Pawtucket. Dear City Council, it is understood that the City of Providence is faced with tough decisions as the unbalanced budget needs to be adjusted. This testimony is to advocate against the proposed cuts to the Office of Sustainability. Sustainability is a very small office located in the back corner of City Hall through another office and a secret stairwell. Have you all been there? You should go, see what they're working with. Losing one critical position, the Sustainability Policy Associate, will have rippling effects throughout the department and the many initiatives, projects, and organizations that work in support of shared citywide climate and economic resilience goals. Zero Waste Providence is a 501c3 with a very, very slim operating budget. The Office of Sustainability, with much support from the Policy Associate, was able to secure over $305,000 in federal funding for composting and recycling education outreach in Providence over a 2-year period. This is free money to improve conditions in Providence, highlighting that the return on the investment for the Policy Associate is tremendous. With this $305,000 in federal funds, my organization is able to offer part-time employment to 4 Providence residents. These outreach workers are increasing the amount of food scraps diverted from our landfill, reducing heavy tonnage that the city pays haulers to take to the landfill. We're extending the lifespan of our landfill, and we're creating rich compost to be used locally, which mitigates flooding, erosion, and improves soil health at a hyper-local level. Later this summer, we will also be working to improve recycling rates and lessen the occurrence of recycling cart contamination, leading to reduced fines paid by the city. Providence spends $1 million in fees and fines for contaminated recycling. It is so important to Providence residents that the city contracts with small and effective grassroots community organizations like ours, as opposed to large out-of-state contractors that often charge more for services. Again, the return on the investment in the Office of Sustainability poses a solid argument to keep all staff in that department and seek cuts elsewhere in the budget. Please. From a humanistic perspective, I ask that you consider the career path of the individual facing a furlough, the policy associate. Consistency in employment is so valuable. Giving a young woman a chance to get a solid foothold in municipal policy and flourish should be part of this discussion. To force someone out who works extremely well within the department, is extremely efficient, personable, pleasant, and genuinely committed to the tasks seems like the worst decision that could be made for that department, city, and individual.
If you could finish up, please.
Perhaps cuts could be made more aggressively elsewhere, such as to tangible goods and materials or out-of-state contractors, and the budget can prioritize keeping residents employed. I know none of this process is easy or feels good. That person went over a minute, so I'm going to go over a little bit.
Well,
I hope you can make decisions.
Almost 4, so please.
I hope you can make decisions to cut the budget with as little interruption to the functionality of the Office of Sustainability and staff as possible. They really do a great job and should not be punished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Seth Zarin.
Thank you, members of the Providence City Council and the Finance Committee. Really appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this. My name is Seth Zarin. I live at 31 Harrison Street. I'm here in support of the budget as proposed, but with a few comments and observations. I too am a homeowner. I have a small multifamily. I will be paying more taxes under this bill. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be easy. My tenants will have a rent increase, but it won't be all the full value of the tax increase, and we're going to try to make it work for everybody. It is challenging. We all know that the housing crisis is one of, if not the biggest issue facing the city of Providence. And the only way out of a housing shortage is to build more homes for people. To get back to 250,000 people in the city would mean building about 30,000 new homes. That's about $10 billion with a B dollars of investment in residential real estate. That is a lot of investment that has to be made, public and private. A lot of investment is going to be made in real estate. And this budget does make a very important move to lower the very high property taxes that apartment buildings face in the city of Providence, right? They're coming down substantially. It is the case that today, Providence apartment buildings the city of Providence is about third nationally for the highest property tax for commercial and apartment buildings in the country, just behind Detroit and ahead of Bridgeport. Now this is a big move. This is the first time that commercial property taxes have come down a fair bit in my memory. It just edges out Bridgeport. We're still 5th for the highest property taxes in the country. And I can tell you that investors and developers are paying attention when valuations go up and are uncertain, and when taxes rates are high, it makes it harder to build in the city without a special tax deal. And we all hate TSAs and special tax deals and all those shenanigans. It is the case today that an apartment building in Providence with 12 or more units under this proposal would pay 3 times the property tax rate of a mansion on the east side. And I don't know that that's a good idea. Small business owners are going to be paying 3 times the property tax rate of condo owners. And it's not to say that we aren't making hard trade-offs. We certainly are, but I think there is room to continue to adjust that balance because we're not going to get out of this unless we can build apartment buildings, and we have to make those things that are affordable to build and reasonable to invest in because, again, we're going to need to build a lot of them so that everyone has a place to live.
No, I'm not sure anyone said anything, at least not from any of us. But if
So,
you could finish up, please.
I do think that there are some other opportunities. I think user fees were increased in this budget. I think there may be some additional room there, too, to work on. I think we have to be really thoughtful about the way that this budget will impact investment decisions going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Eileen Hayes.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Eileen Hayes, and I'm the CEO of Amos House. I'm writing to thank the mayor for including a hand up in his 2026 budget, and just wanted to take a minute to give you some of the results of that program. As many folks here may know, we're sort of an anti-panhandling DID Yellow Jackets on the other side of town. And we have worked for the past 10 years in providing supports for many unhoused folks so that they can get a hand up. They literally go throughout the Providence community and pick up garbage, hypodermic needles, but more importantly, we engage them in services and help them find jobs, get into shelter, get vital documents, and hopefully start the path for a different experience in their lives. Just so that you have some perspective, last year and this past year, we served 503 individuals. We picked up 50,000 gallons of trash, 3,000 needles. We had 29 people go to detox, 101 people we helped enroll in health benefits. We gave out bus passes. We helped almost 400 people get vital documentation so that they can apply for housing and shelter and all those other kind of needs. And we got 165 people enrolled in shelter. And the thing that I want to say more than anything is the way that the program transforms lives. And folks that have been looked at as invisible and a bane on society really get a chance to turn their lives around and begin to feel like they have some value and some worth. So I really appreciate the program being in existence and having it in the budget and level funding. So thank you for all that you do, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
And we would like to thank you for all you do for our city. So thank you for coming this evening. Okay, the next we have is Morris. I'm sorry, Morris, I can't pronounce your last name.
Good evening, Madam Chair, and members of the council. Thank you for having me. I'm in support of the budget.
Can you state your name and your
My
address?
name is Maurice Akin Folari, as I said, Akin Folari. I'm in support of the budget. I've scanned through many of the areas that are of interest to our community. I'm here on behalf of the youth in Providence. This budget addresses a lot of recreational activities for the youth in Providence, and also it supports all the summer's activities that we have in place in our community, most especially the art and culture that benefits our programs. Also, many of the grants in here, we are indirectly a benefactor of those grants. We were able to award scholarship to college-bound students at one point in time last year. We are also able to run a mentor program for our youth throughout the year. It's called Youth Leadership Education Programs. Recently, we took the kids to New York, for spring break. We were at 9/11 Memorial, for them to learn. We came back, at the same time, we were in this city hall, learning about the city hall. We were at the State House. We have all-week programs through the benefit of this assistance we are getting from the city. So I am definitely in support of this budget because it benefits the city a lot. And hopefully we can continue to run our program for a better future for the generations to come. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I'd like to recognize Councilor Peterson, who has just joined us. Thank you very much. Okay, we have Chris Marcella.
Thank you, Chairwoman, members of the committee and the council for your service. My name is Chris Marcella I have to admit, like our friend Stevie Santos here. I was a longtime resident here in Providence on the east side for a number of years, but moved to that other place called Warwick. But my everyday life and investment is here in downtown, and I love this city. But I really just, again, want to thank you for your service. It's not easy. This job isn't easy, and I can imagine for your counterparts around the country and even around the world facing the same issues and the same challenges facing our residents. And I want to thank our fellow citizens for being part of the process as well. We all want what's best for this amazing city. We may come at it differently and have different opinions, but these challenges, I think, transcend where we're coming from. So I just want to thank for everybody to be part of the process. Again, as a longtime resident here, a commercial property owner, an investor, I believe in this city and desperately, passionately want to see investment continue here, to continue to grow, and in a region that is a challenge with that from time to time. I think we talked about some of the challenges and the pushes and pulls between commercial and residential tax rate. I think we're living in a world now where a lot of the commercial and residential uses in these buildings and these assets are merging and are upon us. So the policies and the approaches to how we look at those assets and possible conversions so people can find housing in commercial buildings that may not be what they once were as office space is really critical. And I think this budget does an incredible job of addressing that. It's not perfect, but it is incredibly competitive. And I just want to point out that I think in the most challenging of times to address the long overdue reduction in the commercial tax rate to help address some of those investments it's finally being corrected on what was a dangerous trajectory. So I want to voice my support and ask continued support from all of you to keep us on that map for investment and predictability for those that not only live here and invest here, but those that are coming from outside our borders that find this city and the state to be an incredible place to invest. So overall, I think this budget was proposed thoughtfully and with great care and at very tough times. No cuts to city services across the neighborhoods, maintaining funding to public safety, both police and fire, and looking internally for cost efficiencies as well. I think that has to be noted because we're all in this together. So with that thought, and I just want to, again, thank you for your service and ask for your support for a continued stable city to live, work, and invest in, and I urge you to support this budget. And thank you again for your service.
Thank you. Next we have April Brown.
Good evening. My name is April Brown. I live at 276 Niagara Street in Providence. And in 2017, the Racial Environmental Justice Committee, REJC, collaborated with the City of Providence to uphold the people who represent this community to be accountable to the idea of buen vivir and the tenets of the Just Providence framework, which reads, in part, a racially equitable and just Providence that moves us toward el buen vivir. A racial and equitable and just Providence that supports safe spaces for frontline communities of color. A racially and equitable just Providence that values education for our children and youth. A racially and equitable just Providence that must create meaningful work for its constituency. A racially and equitable just Providence that requires building a sustainable local economy now in which we produce and consume to live well without living better at the expense of others. And a racial and equitable just Providence that respects community rights to good land, water, food sovereignty, and good housing. Council, the budget proposal that we have in front of us is actually the beginning of reversing all of the good work that we did when we wrote the Just Providence framework. As the director of REJC, we ask this council to consider what does it look like when we take investment out of our recreational centers. It is the opposite of buen vivir. What does it look like when you cut the budget from PEMA, when we are just working towards a municipality that is attempting to prepare for stormwater flooding when the 100-year storm, or rather tomorrow's storm, hits Silver Lake, Olneyville, Wansquat, South Providence, or Washington Park? The cut in flood and climate mitigation does not support municipal preparedness. As the city is preparing to update the Climate Justice Plan, a plan, by the way, that is cited nationally to instruct municipalities on how to develop a solid government plan using the spectrum of community engagement. We did this work successfully here in Providence, and it is beginning to work. I believe it is irresponsible to remove the Sustainable Policy Associate, who was the designated person who will hold, on behalf of the city, the continuation of the framework and this community goal of creating a net zero city. The council must question, what are the values of this city? And how does this budget reflect them? How are we keeping our constituents safe, providing comfort to the most vulnerable, and finally creating a space for the future constituents to have a vibrant life? Thank you.
Thank you. Helen Baskerville-Dukes.
Good evening. My name is Helen Baskerville-Dukes, the Executive Director of the Mount Hope Community Center. I live at 135 Camp Street. I also work at 199 Camp Street. And I didn't know you guys had a DJ over here. No, I'm joking. Just figured we'd just have comedy hour for like comedy second. But anyway, good evening, members of the Finance Committee and City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm requesting that the city maintain funding for recreation and the Mount Hope Community Center. The city's funding is 1/5 of our payroll. The Mount Hope Community Center is a vital pillar of public life, providing essential services, safe gathering spaces, and programming that supports residents of all ages. We've been serving Providence for over 40 years. We currently serve over 600 families annually, from after-school activities and youth mentorship, recreation and senior services, food assistance, utility assistance, WIC, free tax preparation, entrepreneurship, workforce development, and an emerging affordable housing project. The Mount Hope Community Center addresses real-life, everyday needs. We help reduce crime, boost public health, and create stronger, more connected neighborhoods. Since the COVID pandemic, the center has broadened its support across Providence. Maintaining city funding ensures that the Mount Hope Community Center remains accessible and responsive, particularly for vulnerable and undeserved populations. Without the support, critical programs could disappear, leaving gaps that would ultimately cost the city more in social services, emergency response, and public health. Investing in the Mount Hope Community Center as well as Providence Recreation Centers is not just the right thing to do, it's a smart, preventive investment in a healthier, safer, and more equitable city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We have Gary Sorrow.
Thank you, Madam President, City Council members, and the Finance Committee. I'm Gary DeSaro. I live at 9 Gessler Street in Providence, and I'm here to advocate for the Providence Recreation Department and the centers. I've been coaching and mentoring at the Zuccolo Recreation Center in Providence for over 20 years, coaching basketball. I think it's vital that we continue these centers. They have gone under, I know there's council members here, have seen their centers, we're under like an infrastructure. We're spending a lot of money in these centers. These centers have decayed over the years, but now the money is being put in, and they're wonderful places, and they're gonna be wonderful. I know at my center, at the moment, through Council President Rachel Miller, We are putting in air conditioning and heating system for the first time since the building was built. All right? So I know the council is doing their job. So all I'm asking for, I had a whole thing here to read, but I know I can't do that. But I just want you to continue to support our recreation centers and our programs. And summer's coming. Please don't cut any of the youth jobs out of the budget. We need more. We got to keep our youth in the centers, at our pools, at our parks, working. And thank you so much, and have a good evening. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Amy Salazar.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say hi to my counselor. It's nice to see you. I am here today in the opposition of the budget as it is outlined. I specifically want to talk about two things. The noise cameras, I'm against them. I feel like as a Providence resident, I only see the speeding cameras in places where there are more people of color than not. And I feel like the same will happen with the noise cameras. I think there are other ways that we can think about mitigating the issue of a lower quality of life because of loud noises. And I think that we can do better than just continue to kind of penalize being poor or being brown. So I'm against that. And I also want to say that I am against the raising of the property tax rates. As you already heard, the highest increase is to 2 to 5 unit households, whether they are owner occupied or not. And I have to say that that's most of our housing in Providence. Most of our housing is triple deckers. And like you've heard, renters are going to suffer the most because the landlords are going to push that onto us. And I want to say that we are already being priced out as it is because of the price of housing. So further adding that tax rate to the 2 to 5 units specifically would really, really hurt us. I know it's important that people own houses in Providence, but it's just as important that those of us who can't afford to buy the house can at least rent a house in Providence. I do want to point out that that specific tax rate change does specify that 5% will be actually taken off of the 6 to 10 unit, and I believe that is unfair because here I am seeing Strive buy yet another house or build another building in my neighborhood and then charge PC students so much more money for rent but not have to pay more tax for the properties that they're making. Feels unfair. And so I do understand that this is a hard task that you guys are all having to do, but I do want to point out that if we are gonna raise the property taxes on everybody, we should also do it on the 6 to 10 units, especially the ones that are around here, or the ones that are owned by I don't know if they're multimillionaires, but people who are a lot more wealthier than the everyday renter or homeowner in Providence. So those are my two big things with the budget. I do agree with some of it, but I do think that we need to look further into both the noise cameras and the property tax rates so that we're not further penalizing people who don't have the money. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Now we have Enrique Sanchez.
Thank you, Councilwoman, Chairwoman, and members of the Honorable Finance Committee for hosting this important meeting for our constituents and residents today. My name is Enrique Sanchez, 17 Master Street here in Providence. I am here to oppose the budgets. Before anything, I want to touch base on some points in regards to my opposition, but I want to thank you for doing the best that you can. I know it's a tough budget for all municipal government departments and agencies, and I know we are doing our part at the state government as well. I know this whole federal administration cutting funds for Rhode Island is also accelerating to the consequences of us having to make cuts within municipal government. So I know we're doing our part. I know the city council is doing its part and so on, and I attribute to that, and I thank you for that. But before anything, I want to just touch base so that some of our constituents are aware, residents are aware of what led us to this very moment, some of the decision-making, policy-making throughout the last few years, and also some of the last city council, the previous administrations as well. As many of you know, Rhode Island, Providence has a history of giving out major tax breaks and major tax cuts to big end developers. We had a big battle back in October of September 2022 with the Superman building. There was a proposed ordinance or policy to give out a $30 million tax break a $30 million TSA tax stabilization agreement proposal that would have been detrimental for Providence residents. Thankfully, we were able to kill that. But policies like that, initiatives like that, contribute to some of our Providence homeowners and commercial property owners having to raise their taxes or having to raise their rents and their properties as well, and then the higher tax rates increases falling as a burden on them. I've been paying attention the last couple years with some of the mayor's proposals, and then some of those proposals having to fall on the responsibility of the city council. Look, I know that the voluntary payments, I know we can't tax, I know we couldn't tax Brown University, the private institutions. I know that was an initiative that was proposed through the voluntary payments. I do think that we could have raised more money, and I do think we could have gotten more money for Providence instead of getting only $170 million over the next 20 years for Brown University, for Providence College, for RISD, for Johnson & Wales. I know that they could have paid more, and I know that could have been increased if the mayor's team had came to the city council initially to negotiate and not just throw the negotiation onto your guys' plate. You guys could have forced to begin the initial negotiations from the very beginning. And then second, also with the agreements with Lifespan, we only got $1 million. How is it that the city council only, I know I'm going over my time, but it's important for our constituents, for residents to be aware.
That's all right, if you can just...
happening. I'm wrapping up, yeah. We only got $1 million from Lifespan. How is it that a multi-billion-dollar company, institution only gave the city of Providence $1 million? And again, what happened? The mayor's team came to the city council with already a plan in place instead of forcing negotiations to come and get more. We could have gotten millions of dollars. We could have gotten 10, 15, $20 million from Lifespan if you guys had forced the conversations. And again, fast forward to where we're at now, all these decision-making policies in the past have led to what we're dealing with now, with business owners, with homeowners having to deal with the burden of paying property taxes. When the last few years, we could have generated so much revenue through these initial making. So I don't support the budget because of the proposed tax cuts to major developers, and I know the city council came out with the proposal to propose it, but I also don't support raising the levy tax, and I will be opposing at the State House raising the levy tax to 8%, from 4% to 8%, because I know that the tax rates in the budget are going to lead to people having to pay higher property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Francis Goner? Gomez. I'm sorry, I couldn't read it. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Francis Gomez from Ward 10. I am a lifelong resident, went to the schools, worked for the city, etc. I'm just here today to express concern about this tax hike, and I really want the council to ask themselves, have they really looked at the city expenditures that are actually happening inside and outside? It is absolutely frustrating to come to downtown and see that cars get ticketed for parking violations. There are traffic violations that are always being ticketed, and also city ordinances that are not being enforced. As a city, we can make a lot more money if we pay more attention by enforcing parking violations, not just in downtown, not just in the east side of Providence. Providence consists of Washington Park, West End, North End, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And never do I see or hear of people getting parking violations over there. There's a mess everywhere you go. People are blocking driveways, people are parking the corners where you can't even see if there's any oncoming traffic. Now, when it comes to these noise cameras, I disagree with that absolutely. But there is a noise ordinance, and my neighborhood is relatively peaceful and quiet, which could be very rare for the city, but there are a number of times where at 1 a.m. I have to call the cops in order for a complaint because somebody's playing their music at 1 a.m. Is that ordinance violation actually happening? No. Why? Because it keeps happening. So my only thing here is that the frustrations of just seeing certain parts of the city being ticketed versus it should be everywhere else, that's what needs to be paid attention to here. Another thing I would like to bring up is a certain RFP that went out not too long ago. It's RFP PVD 193, Public Property Purchase of Public Service Vehicles. 3 bids submitted, 2 out of the 3 disqualified. The winning bidder, McGovern HQ, for the amount of $3,785,957. This same vendor is part of a purchasing cooperative, the Greater Boston Police Council Cooperative. And my question to council, was due diligence taken by comparing piggybacking through this cooperative and the bid at hand? I'm sure there was some savings to look into. The Board of Contract and Supply, there are council people here that do not participate. And yes, I understand it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but we need more council participation in the Board of Contracts and Supply so that they are seeing firsthand what is being approved and what is not being approved. There's a lot of city spending that needs to be paid attention to, and this is just one example.
If you wouldn't mind finishing up, that would be great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm almost done. Thank you. I'll continue to do my own research for the next public hearing, but I really want council to definitely look into the city expenses, what's being purchased, and also the enforcement of city ordinances, parking violations, and traffic violations throughout the city, not just in 2 sections. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have John Sherman.
Good evening. My name is John Sherman, 28 Bolston Lane. For those who don't know it, that's Smith Hill. I moved to Providence approximately 8 years ago because it was affordable, including the property taxes. My background is corporate and real estate finance, so I understand when your costs go up and you're mandated to pass a budget that you need to increase your revenues. My concern, my question is, should the taxpayers be burdened with 62% of those new revenues? I have been told that we're looking at a 4% increase in property taxes or an 8% increase in property taxes. I was at a meeting with the mayor and the city council Saturday where the mayor used an example of a $550,000 single-family property whose valuation went up 33%, but the taxes only went up $160. And I question that reality. So what I did was I went home and I looked right in my neighborhood, 5 properties including mine. 57% increase in valuation, 24% increase in property taxes, 47% increase in valuation, 14% in property tax increase, 52% increase in valuation, 20% increase in property taxes. 67% increase in valuation. 31% increase in property taxes. The last one, 54% increase in valuation. 24%, which, by the way, is over $3,000. I understand the budget is the budget, but I want you to understand what you are asking the individual property owners to bear. If it was 8%, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But it's not, and we're being told things that are not the truth. So please, look at the budget. Look where you can save additional money, because it can't be on the backs of the small multi-unit property owners. Last thing I will say, in the 8 years I've been here, I've had a Section 8 tenant. I am at the point, because of rising costs, of questioning if I can afford to keep that tenant in place or if I need to rent to a market renter. I've also been looking at building 2 additional units. In the current economy, with the current expenses, I can't afford to do that unless I get $1,500 plus a month for rent. That's not affordable.
Thank you. And what I'd ask, if possible, if you could send us an email, if you wouldn't mind putting some of those figures together, I'd appreciate it.
Tell me where to send it, I'd be happy to do it.
Yes, we will definitely write that down. Thank you. All right. Okay. Next we have Alfred Martin. Alfred Martin? Okay. How about Jenny? Oh, is he coming? I'm so sorry, sir.
Greetings. My name is Alfred A. Martin. I live at 59 Doyle Avenue, Providence. I've been in the same house for about 67 years. I've been on the east side for around 70-some years. I'm way over 90 years old, and I participated in many sessions of this council and this city. I just left a meal site I've been on for 50-some years. That's just a little history of myself. I'm here on behalf of the veterans. We've had a discount sometimes, so I'd like to see that kept. I missed World War II, so I got into the Korean War. And I might mention something. I didn't intend to write a script out, and this applies to people in politics. When I was in the military, I had an old first sergeant tell us one time, while you're in the military, you're on duty 25 hours a day. I kind of like that expression. I'd like to see it in behalf of the city council members, those in politics. They're on duty 25 hours a day instead of 24. The more you know about the consequences we have in the city, the better able you're going to be able to rectify those particular things. We've had this kind of sessions on the east side for a long time, and the new generation coming along is not too familiar with what we went through before. And the only thing there was we don't recognize the older people and the knowledge they have, and the transfer of that knowledge over to the younger generation coming along is one thing to call, say, listen. And the elderly people, I'd like to say that think of them also in your participation.
Thank you.
Of the budget. And I only have one other thing to say, and if you want the truth, go to the people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming tonight. Jenny Mercado.
Good evening, City Council and Finance Committee. My name is Jenny, and I'm here today as a community member deeply committed to the well-being and future of Providence. I am proud to represent Nuevas Voces and the first Owneville Resilient Hub, where I work every day to connect families, especially immigrants and low-income families, to critical resources, education, and emergency preparedness. The work of the Sustainability Department directly impacts the communities I serve. We see firsthand how climate change, energy burdens, and access to clean water affect our neighbors. The department's leadership and program help bridge gaps and bring equity to the forefront of city plannings. I urge you to invest in the future of our city by keeping the Sustainability Office fully funded and fully staffed. Our communities are counting on it. We need a strong, well-supported sustainability team to keep making progress towards environmental justice and to ensure no community is left behind in this important work. Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. So appreciate you coming tonight. And thank you for your service. Francesca Gallo.
Hi, my name is Francesca Gallo. I live at 70 Cortlandt Street. The budget that is currently before the City Council is assuming that the bill before the State House to raise the limit on the revenue that Providence gets from taxes will pass. And I think the city needs to explore other revenue sources that don't impose the higher taxes that other folks have been talking about. The mayor should have been budgeting to pay the money that is now owed to Providence Public School, and compensating for that failure of planning shouldn't fall on renters and low and middle income residents. Even before these tax increases, this month I am already paying a 20% increase in my rent. I work for a nonprofit. My partner is a theater artist. Our incomes are not increasing by 20%. My rent is now 40% of my income. So I urge the City Council to think about taxing larger commercial buildings and reassessing the police budget and finding other sources of revenue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Kathy, I'm sorry, Catlow? Wow, we haven't had that before. Okay, I'll just let you pronounce it.
Thank you very much. My name is Kathy Cloutier. Thank you, Finance Committee, council people, council members. I'm a homeowner in Providence. I live at 333 Atwells Ave. I do have comments about the nighttime economy, but I won't talk about that right now. I'm just kidding. I'm also here as the executive director of Dorcas International Institute of Rhode Island. We own 2 commercial properties on Elmwood Ave in South Providence, and we do pay property taxes, by the way. We're a 501c3. So I just want folks to understand that. I'm here to express my strong support for the proposed $50,000 allocation for the fiscal 2026 budget to continue operation of the 24/7 immigration phone line, offering free legal consultations for our city's residents. Providence has a long, I'm sorry, because my print is small and I have old lady eyes. Providence has long been a beacon of hope and opportunity for immigrants and refugees seeking a better life. Our city has a tapestry is woven from diverse backgrounds, cultures, and experiences of those who have chosen to make Providence home. However, navigating the complex and ever-changing landscape of federal immigration policies and enforcement practices can be daunting and at times overwhelming for those in our residents of our city. At Dorcas International, we see every single day challenges faced by our immigrant neighbors. Families are being separated, individuals are uncertain about their legal status, and communities are living in fear due to misinformation and lack of access to reliable legal guidance. While our organization provides these services during regular business hours, the need for immediate, round-the-clock access to this information is unmet without this 24/7 immigration line. The continuation of the phone line would ensure that residents in Providence have access to accurate information and legal support regardless of the time of day. The initiative aligns seamlessly with Mayor Smiley's vision of making Providence the best-run city in America, prioritizing the well-being of its residents, especially those most vulnerable. Moreover, the modest investment complements the mayor's broader budgetary goals of supporting children and families, maintaining high-quality services across neighborhoods, and implementing revenue strategies to alleviate taxpayer burdens. Notably, the budget includes significant $11 million increase in funding for the Providence School District, which is so much needed. And I understand the burden on taxpayers. I absolutely do, because I am one. But in contrast, the $50,000 allocation for the immigration phone line is just a financial expenditure, but it's a statement of the city's values.
If you wouldn't mind finishing up, thank you so
I'm
much.
finished. I thank you for your consideration, and
Well,
I apologize for my struggles.
No, thank you for coming, and thank you for everything you do for this community. So
Thank
we
you very
really
much.
appreciate you coming this evening.
Yeah, and I do have the written because I didn't finish.
Okay, thank you for handing it to us. Okay, now we have Caitlin Sanford.
Hi, Chair Anthony and council people. It's an honor to be here. I am here to speak against the cuts in staffing to the Department of Sustainability and the Providence Emergency Management Authority. I live at 375 Rochambeau Avenue here in Providence. Caitlin Sanford. So these are small departments, as has been mentioned before, 5 or 6 people. I think 5 counselors are on the special committee for environment and resilience, and you've done such hard work. It's been amazing. Providence has been a leader in climate justice, in urban heat islands, in working on the zoning and the comprehensive plan to make our city resilient and strong and focus on the jobs aspect of the green transition. And everything that committee has worked on needs this department to implement it, right? The building emissions reporting ordinance is groundbreaking. It's doing really important work. We're not sure if the State House is gonna pass that for the state, so the city is what we've got. And in this federal climate, every day, Department of Energy, EPA, everything's getting cut. So, at New York City, they had these big billboards. If Doge says you're fired, the city of New York says you're hired. So I hope that for Providence we can say that. We have to cut these 2 people's jobs, young public servants. You are public servants, like our profession is under attack, and it's a noble profession. And as an owner-occupied homeowner, I'm willing to pay property taxes to fund these amazing programs, especially in resilience, and for those that'll help the resiliency hubs. These programs have brought in millions of dollars in grants, and now we're gonna tell these people, like, you have 4 people to implement these huge programs, all this money we've got. So I just urge us to look at the larger departments and think about if we have to make cuts, it's really unfortunate, but to do it in the departments that might be able to absorb that. These departments have really done an amazing amount, and I think especially on the emergency management, if we make cuts to that now, we'll end up paying more later. So please go back to the mayor with full restoration of funding for the Department of Sustainability and the Providence Emergency Management Authority. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for testifying. Julian Drix.
Hello, my name is Julian Drix, resident in Washington Park, 93 Calla Street. Thank you for this. Dear Councilwoman Anthony and members of the Committee on Finance, As the chair of the Sustainability Commission for the City of Providence, I am submitting this testimony to request that the Sustainability Policy Associate position be restored to the Sustainability Department's budget. The Sustainability Commission discussed the budget at our April 21st meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, and agreed unanimously that we cannot support a budget proposal with such damaging cuts to Providence's essential and valuable sustainability work. In a year when we are due for the 5-year update of Providence's nationally recognized climate justice plan, cutting the Sustainability Policy Associate position would mean effectively defunding and derailing the climate justice plan. Last year, our commission wrote a letter of support for the department's FY25 budget request. At the time, we were concerned that the department was essentially level funded while taking on major new responsibilities, such as the Providence Community Electricity Program and the Building Energy Reporting Ordinance. But we knew that the incredible staff in the department would find a way, and over the past year, they have been highly effective and efficient with relatively minimal resources. The Sustainability Department saves the city money and brings in revenue. Sustainability secures favorable energy contracts and saves money through energy efficiency while bringing in millions of dollars through grants and incentives for energy, waste, resilience, and environmental justice projects. They do this hand in hand with community partners, and we appreciate them. All of this is possible because of staffing. Cutting staff threatens to undo this important work and reduce the amount of revenue savings that sustainability provides. Climate justice plan goals are adopted by the city through ordinance, and it is incumbent on the city to implement its responsibilities to meet these goals. In co-governance collaboration with community, this is a critical time with the 5-year update due at a time of increasingly frequent and severe extreme weather events alongside federal cuts and attacks on environmental justice and climate science. As a climate vulnerable city, Providence needs to step up and meet the challenges of our time. We literally cannot afford to fail, and we certainly cannot afford to cut critical staffing since none of this is possible without them. Most of the positions that the mayor's budget eliminates are unfilled positions, but 2 are currently filled with amazing public servants, including the Sustainability Policy Associate. The loss of a valued staff person is significantly more impactful in a small department like sustainability, which only has 6 staff, particularly in a year when the department director will be out on maternity leave. This places an unjust burden on a small department.
Mr. Driscoll, if you could finish up, that would be great.
I will. I'll summarize this and send it to you in an email.
Yep.
Please look at other departments that are much larger and have increases, like the police department. There's $125,000 for Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service. We appreciate that. Okay. Mary Bell Martinez. Thought somebody was coming up. Okay, Kristen Haynes.
Hello, my name is Kristen Haynes. I'm a resident of 21 Wood Street, Ward 13. I am here in opposition to this budget as it currently exists. Our city desperately needs money for our schools and for our everyday expenses, but we cannot burden everyday residents to raise that money. Providence already has the highest rent, seen the highest rent increase nationwide. The proposed 16% tax increase on the 2 to 5 units will raise rents even more and displace working people. I know I can't afford a rent increase. I already work 3 to 4 jobs every week in order to pay my expenses in Providence as an educator. We need affordable housing, less police spending on overtime and unnecessary purchases such as sound cameras and armored vehicles. We need to tax parking lots and increase pilot payments from organizations like Brown University Health. We can raise this money without burdening the residents who are already so burdened. We can raise this money for our schools without displacing the families attending those schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alicia Rojas. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Rojas. I live on 96 Roanoke Street in Providence. I came tonight because I'm against this budget because 16% for people is insane. We can't afford to pay that. The only way I'm in favor of this budget is if we turn around those numbers to charge them to the 1%. I mean, people who got money, investments in the city. I got 2 jobs. I have a daughter, disabled. My wife works 1 job. I'm barely paying my mortgage. If we get this increase, I don't know what's going to happen to me and many other families who own houses. It's insane. I hope you, Miguel, you are my councilman. I'll vote against this bill. I was at the state also, and I also told them, to stop this budget, because I'm going to lose my house, and many other people are going to lose their houses, So please take that as a consideration, because we can afford more taxes. Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you coming. Thank you. Rick Simone. I don't think we have Rick here anymore. Carolina Pichardo.
Good evening. My name is Carolina Pichardo. I live in 20 Wildwood Avenue. I am here because, I can't believe for 3rd time, I say 3rd time, you increase the taxes. Or you try to, I say 3rd time, because the 1st time, the 2nd time, this tax assessment, in my personal case, my tax assessment, the value was 150% more. My house is 2-family house. I live in the 2nd floor, I rent the 1st floor. I can't afford more taxes. When somebody called me and said, Carolina, the city council wants, or the mayor wants to increase the taxes again. I say, what? I can't believe. Because let me tell you, the water is 2 water. Mostly the other state has only 1 water. Here is 2 water. So the water is too high. I received only 1 month bill for the electric bill, $687,000. I can't believe, 1 month. My house is empty almost all day. Only 2 persons, and we are never over there. When I call Rhode Island Energy, they say, oh, that is because your supplies is the city hall, and they put it 200 something over the bill. I say, what? And the electric bill, too high. The water, the 2 water, too high. You increase the tax 1 time after the tax assessment, and now other time. And, we are in one economic recession right now because the administration in Washington, you know that. How if we were, mostly the people in Providence are low income. So I feel if it's you, the council and the mayor, do it like that, boom, 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 to us, and we are like that, and boom, no way. Please, you have to thinking about us, because you represent us. Every one of you don't think, because my friend, one council, I say, why you want to increase the taxes again? He said, Carolina, it's because the city, we don't want the city go to the bankruptcy. And I say to him, so the city, not bankruptcy for the city, but bankruptcy personally for us, that is not good for us. I really not accept that budget. I reject this budget. Thinking about us is too much. And
if you could finish up, we'd appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me tell you the last thing. The Rhode Island Energy, I understand that the City Hall sued Rhode Island Energy for $8 million. So maybe you can use tax money for that. Thank you for giving me your time.
Thank you so much for coming in and testifying. Andrew Royes? Andrew? No? I am so sorry. I thought it was sorry, it is Andrea. I am so sorry.
Hello, my name is Andrea Rojas. I live at 319 Academy Avenue. I'm here in opposition to this budget as is. I urge the council to specifically amend the tax structure for multifamily homes. It's a burden that's going to hurt multi-generational homes and renters specifically. People are hurting financially, and so naturally they're very concerned about what this will mean for them. I'm here on behalf of a community member, a resident of the West End, currently on dialysis, paying $1,000 a month for treatment not covered by their health insurance, and who is living paycheck to paycheck. I'm here on behalf of my friend who lives on Wickeden Street, who was recently diagnosed with cancer, waiting for TDI to kick in, and who was just told that the rent is going up. I'm here on behalf of a neighbor whose home was sold recently and was asked to vacate their apartment of more than a decade. This neighbor, even fully employed, cannot find an apartment that's within their budget and is currently facing the very real possibility of having to sleep in their car. Most of us are one financial or medical emergency away from homelessness. We have to find creative solutions for our city finances and tax revenue. If we're all being asked to burden some of the weight, why does it feel like renters and residents on fixed incomes are shouldering most of it? Please, for the love of God, think about our neighbors who are often unseen and who feel like they've already been forgotten. As our city council, I ask you to make the necessary amendments to lessen the burden on Providence renters and homeowners. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for testifying on behalf of your friends. Michelle Davis.
Hello. Well, I kind of impromptu decided I needed to speak. I'm Michelle Davis. I actually am representing 184 Camp Street, which is the Camp Street Ministry food pantry. And also, I don't know if Mr. Martin is still here, but Mr. Martin was a trailblazer and is a trailblazer for the East Side. He and my parents used to fight for the causes for the East Side. My dad was one of the first African-American police officers here in the Providence, city of Providence. So I am for the budget. I am for the budget for the police. I am not for the tax increase because, as everyone was saying, as a few people were saying, it's hard to find police officers. That's because it's at a critical low because of the budget and because of so many accusations wagered against them and the fire department. The one thing that I would say is sustainability. The sustainability is definitely something that we need to consider keeping. One suggestion is that they work with some of the universities, for one, Johnson Wales, which is my alma mater, they do have a sustainability department, which is willing to work with the city. They have courses and they have projects that they do. Also, you might want to reach out to even Brown University. So, and now as I was saying, I am here representing the Camp Street Ministry. We service over 1,200 people per month that are food insecure. That goes from seniors to the youth. We also have programs that we do. We raise money for heating. So we definitely need to make sure we continue to give those grants. We help educate people. We've been helping the community since the early 70s. It was founded by Mimi Catlin, who is no longer with us. So that is one consideration to look at. We are definitely reaching out and helping the community. Not only do we just feed the people on the east side, but we feed the people who come from other parts of our city and from our state. I just wanted to also reiterate one thing. I did hear that our state wants to also increase taxes on us. So if we're increasing taxes here in the city, and then we're going to have another $60 million thrown on us from the state, this is a bit much. I am in a two-family home. It's multi-generational, and we've been on the east side for about 70 years total with family. And this increase is a bit much. It's over 50%. So I ask that you guys consider not increasing the taxes, or if you do, at a minuscule interval so we can afford to live. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. All right, we have Grant Delgarian, our very last, and you made it to both meetings. Grant, we may be able to bring a mic to you. Would that be better? Why don't you just stand right there and we'll bring a mic to you. Donna, can you? All right, well.
Good evening, Grant Delgarian, 20 Exeter Street in Providence. Thank you very much for all your public service. Excuse me. I look forward to specific recommendations on specific departments as the committee reviews the specific budgets of the specific departments in the course of the next month and a half. But what I want to offer is a couple of overall perspectives. And that is number one, that as you perhaps know already, I'm against any increase in the budget. The mayor increased the budget a couple of years ago, complaining that the previous administration hadn't increased tax rates, so he did. We don't need to do any more. I offer one thought in terms of perspective. You all know how many employees, city employees there are as of 2025, as of the budget that's being presented by the mayor. My question is this, how many city employees were there in 1950? And the reason I say 1950 is because that's when the city of Providence was a city of population of 250,000. We have a 250,000 population all through the first half of the 20th century. So it'd be interesting to compare those numbers. I went to the Public Utilities Commission public hearing on Narragansett Bay Commission's proposed rate increase of over 10%, and testified against that, and gave reasons why, and gave opportunities for why they didn't need any additional revenue. And we'll see if they take my suggestions. And somewhere along the line, if you're interested in what I had to say, I'll be happy to share them with you, because the Bay Commission's rate structure impacts all of us, not only individually, but in all of our government buildings, and it is totally unacceptable. One thing that I want to mention to everybody here is that, and I'm going to say two words, you know what the issue is that I'm going to talk about. The bridge. Everyone knows what bridge I'm talking about. A year and a half ago, we were told that the bridge needed major repair. And then a couple months later, we were told that the bridge needed so much major repair, it had to be demolished and replaced. My perspective is that, so we've been demolishing it for the last year. My perspective is that we, in this era of climate change, global warming, carbon emissions, 40% coming from the transportation sector, we already have a bridge that's 3 lanes in each direction. What will this second Washington Bridge give us? An extra lane in each direction for a fraction of a mile. I say we should look at alternatives. When we passed environmental laws back in the 70s and instituted EISs, environmental impact statements, you would have thought that we would have had a threshold above which any project costing more than a certain amount of money automatically would require an environmental impact statement. I'm a round figure kind of guy. My number would have been $100 million. Well, we didn't do that, so it's optional, and obviously they're not going to do it. What is the lowest cost that this bridge is projected to cost, and it's gone north of this since? $250 million. So my suggestion is that the city requests the state, before it signs a contract to build a new bridge, request the state to do an EIS. The cost of an EIS would be a fraction of the cost of a new bridge. And what would an EIS do? It would look at the proposed action, which we know what it is. It would look at no alternative, self-explanatory, and it would look at alternative. No action, I should say, that's self-explanatory, and then we'll look at alternatives. And what's my alternative? Rail. 30 more seconds. And rail, not just between Providence and East Providence, but rail between Providence, East Providence, going south to Riverside, Barrington, Warren, Bristol, Portsmouth, Middletown, Newport, connecting downtown Providence to downtown Newport by rail. I'd like to know what the economic impact of that would be before we sign a contract to spend $250 million to get an extra lane. And so that would be my request to the Finance Committee, to the City of Providence, to the state of Rhode Island, that's what we do first. Get the information. I'm a firm believer the more information we have, better decisions we make. Let's get the information, we can sit down, make an informed, intelligent decision. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Grant. Okay, I think we've heard from everyone, and I can't thank those of you who have stayed. Thank you very much for staying until the end, as well as my fellow counselors and committee members. So with that, I'm going to end the public hearing. Thank you.